Hi, this is Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor Gang, Friday, November. Okay, we've got two Johns, a Kevin, and a Keith. We'll start with the Keith. Hi, Keith.
Hey, welcome Kevin and the two Johns and everyone else.
Okay, well, you got Kevin. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi there. I'm slightly stressed because I just managed to pour a glass of water into my brand new Mac. So, if I suddenly go off, that will be why.
Swell. And in New York, John Borthwick. Welcome, John.
Hey, Steve.
And in an undisclosed fortress of turpitude is John Toshek. Right.
Hi, Steve.
And and Guido, you can start recording now. There we go.
We're watching you.
It's the Enterprise eyebrow. Let's start with since Goebel is not in the center square. We'll start with Paul Lind. John Borthwick, what's going on?
Well, Twitter's going to IPO this month. That's certainly a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of stuff happening in the market because of that. I'm not talking about the financial market. I just think generally it's going to change a lot of stuff for early stage and mid stage, any late stage company. So
how so?
I mean, Twitter. We've talked about Twitter and a lot on the show over the years, and I mean, I think we all think it's an iconic tech company, but it's going to, taking companies public has a way of taking them mainstream and of transforming their sort of relevancy. Twitter has become, I think, a global brand, but still a lot of people don't know why to use Twitter every day the way we do. And I think that it's an opportunity for the team to take another shot at getting the sort of the cold start experience right and extending the reach and making it into sort of the company that I think it can become. So I think it's a big deal for them. And then I also think it's from a sort of end user tech perspective, it's going to change a lot. The Twitter ecosystem and the companies around Twitter. We'll see how they grow up and coexist or not. There's sort of been over the years, I think that the companies around Twitter have had sort of some of them have grown up, others have either been killed or acquired by Twitter, and so I think that Twitter, if it's going to become a platform company, where it actually
You seem to have locked up. Well, we'll take what. There's your.
I think we'll see that happen.
Okay, you'll have to rewind the last couple sentences because you were kind of locked up.
Am I unlocked? Yeah. Unlocked.
Yeah, well, you're sort of unlocked. Go ahead. Can you just finish your thought there because we kind of lost.
So the thought is that if Twitter is going to become a platform company, the way that Apple is, the way that Facebook sort of is, and the way Google is, then we're going to see that emerge. I think in the next year or two, because I think, in my opinion, one of the key things that held back on the platform side is that Twitter's business model itself hasn't been fully fleshed out, and I think that as they get their business model, as they figure out how they make money, it gives them the opportunity to figure out, okay, how does the rest of the platform and ecosystem around Twitter fit in?
All right. So we're having a little bit of intermittency here. I want to get John Toshek's reaction to the Twitter situation.
Twitter going public. We've talked about this quite a few times. I think it's it's the right time for them to do it. They got to. I still don't think that they've conveyed what they want to do with their life. When they grow up at all. Is it the news? Is it the media? Is it communications? Is it replacement for email? And they got to articulate it at some point. Instead, it seems like they're doing all of those things and doing them, some of them well, and some of them others are not. And it's fine for a startup to do this at this point. But eventually, they're going to have to say what they do.
How do you mean
And because people like
replacement?
to put boxes around companies and things like that, and you can even say the same is true of Google and on Facebook.
How do you
But
mean
they haven't done it yet.
replacement? Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. How do you mean replacement for email? Is that a good idea? And if so, why?
Email's kind of gone back into the silos that it started in, which was departmental communication or department to department communication of silos, and Twitter, by opening up the direct messages, which I'm not sure works yet, kind of goes, takes that to what email was trying to do, which is open up email to anyone in the public. But it's so hidden in wherever it is, it's really hard to find out if it's successful or not. And I don't get any direct messages from anybody on Twitter, but email still seems to be okay. But eventually, silos are going to be, crushed until they're just, it's cloak and dagger stuff, or behind closed rooms, communications. And there's a necessity, but that's not the volume. I think Twitter's trying to go after the volume with what they're doing with direct messages.
Well, who's going after the kill email?
Yeah, they want to,
But who is? I mean,
but they have to do it.
apparently they want to, but I don't see any real evidence of it.
I think, Steve, is that nobody's explicitly going after that. However, we now have the most fragmented communications infrastructure that we've ever had. I mean, if you think of your messages through a week and how many come in through the following interfaces: Facebook, email, text, WhatsApp style text, LinkedIn.
I get
Twitter,
almost nothing
Twitter direct
except.
messages. These days, you never know where someone's going to try and reach you. And,
But
and
what does
people-
it matter? I mean, if it's a push notification, who cares where it comes from?
A lot of it isn't push notification. I don't know about you, but my Apple iOS push notification center has not become the center of my life, because a lot of crap goes there, number one, so it pisses me off and I can't be bothered to curate it, to get rid of it. And two, a lot of good stuff doesn't go there. So I end up,
What
this is my own
stuff
fault.
doesn't go there?
acknowledge that this is my own fault, but I end up hopping between the places people try to reach me at, and it's a lot of different places. I could fix it, I know that, but I'm not prepared to put the effort in that would take.
All right. Well, I completely disagree with the idea that it hasn't all been subsumed by a push notification, because there's nothing that I don't get except on push notification.
But that's you, because you made an effort to make that true.
No, I didn't. I just turned it on, and in some cases, I didn't turn it off. That's not a big effort. I mean,
But I think, Steve, even if, can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Yeah, so even if the interface is integrated at the top end to push notification, you can be fragmented through to 5-10 different apps. Right?
Yes, but so
you get
what?
a DM from Twitter, you get a message on Snapchat, you get a message on WhatsApp. So the graphs are different there. You have to figure out, am I connected to this person there? Can I share this with this person? So we're seeing a fragmentation of the message space. It is becoming more real time. It's becoming pushed up to the top of the stack, which is all good. But there is a fragmentation that I think Keith's talking about. Is a big shift.
Yeah, but I think that the shift is the inexorable move away from fragmentation and toward a universal bus, which is what push notification is. So I just don't, I don't fundamentally agree. I think that we are already over into this new universe.
It's a transition between buses. I think that's the point. I think is that everyone was using email as that substrate, and they still do, and that's partly what's made email unusable. Is that Google now has to filter all that stuff into separate folders for you by default, so that your email doesn't choke on all the notifications everyone
But
decides to send to you.
email's been fundamentally broken forever.
No, of course, yeah. You don't need to convince me.
So this isn't a new thing.
No,
But the problem is the notification bus could go the same way, because it is getting attacked by people putting noisy crap in there, because if you give them permission to by default, then that's what pops up.
People are being
say, here's a notification. Come and click on us. You haven't touched
I know,
this in a while.
but people are being forced now to choose notification systems on the basis of their fidelity and their clarity. and that's going to create business opportunities for all of these vendors. And some people are going to play smart, and the rest of them are going to lose.
No, look, everyone integrates into notifications. Everyone does. But the truth is that most normal people have not migrated their attention to the notification screen. They just haven't. You have, but most haven't. And what they are doing.
Yeah, but I mean, they said that about RSS, and everybody moved, and they said it about, or at least I did, about how RSS was going to go away in favor of Twitter, and everybody went away to Twitter. And, you know, I mean, we can argue about whether I'm right or not, but let's argue on the merits of whether I'm right, not about whether I'm right.
About, let's separate read and write. So you are theoretically correct when it comes to reading. You are not correct when it comes to writing.
Of course I am.
No, not yet.
No, totally.
Writing-
The issue of the different interfaces is irrelevant. It's like these apps are becoming features of a broader operating system, which is called push notification.
I understand, but we're talking at cross purposes. Because you're agreeing with me, actually. You're saying it doesn't matter what you write through because it all ends up in the same read place.
No, I'm saying that it's a feature. If I go and I want to type some text, whatever app I'm in, I have to use the same things. I got to use a keyboard, or I've got to tap on a screen, or I've got to talk into a microphone, and it gets translated into text. I mean, this is broadly true. There's no impedance mismatch or higher learning, education that you have to go through in order to understand it. The thing comes up, you click on the notification, up comes an interface, the root of which is totally irrelevant. You type the answer and you push click, and it goes out back to the source.
It's true, but remember, this started by you asking the question, who's going after email? And the answer
I asked the question of John Toshak, which he didn't answer, which is it a good idea to go after email?
Well, my answer was everyone's going after email and being successful.
No, they're not.
I think I'm on not full duplex here. I can't hear when I'm talking. But absolutely, and I don't know if they're going after email or just going after communications in general.
Right.
But when you go after communications in general, email is going to be collateral damage, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so
I'm with John.
It's email's going to just go into their silos anyway.
Yeah, I'm with John too. Everybody's with John except John Borthwick, who just hung up. So I'll try and get him back. So now you've answered the question, which is, oh, John, you're calling on the wrong channel.
Is that John going beep beep?
Maybe he should email you.
He should-
He's Skyping it.
Well, that's
Skype's a channel.
Skype is a chat message bus as well. That's one thing a lot of people use it for, not something I use it for. But there are a lot of people who sit in chat and use Skype the way I use IRC or something. So
I use Skype for group chats a lot.
Okay.
Well, so the deal is, if a company is going to go after email, they're going to lose, because that just focuses email on it gives it a higher priority. It's kind of like competitive 101. You don't go after something that's got such mass. You go after everything that surrounds it and flank it. And communications in general is changing. Obviously, you can look at the media and Twitter. You can look at the way people are using Facebook and push notifications. You can look at anything. It's not email. You can look at text messages. My kids don't email anyone. They're afraid to, or something, but they'd rather use text. Those things are obvious. It's been happening for years. Mm-hmm. And now the companies that are doing this are using the push notifications in order to have an alerting mechanism to go back, which is much better than email.
Exactly.
So email is just in their way.
So once they use that alerting mechanism, it's the thing that you become aware of first. And so the chances of you responding, particularly if that was recorded, that information, the chances of you responding to somebody go up astronomically as through the push notification channel. And all the high order things that you deal with, that you see something on notification and you go, you see 5 other notifications and there's only one that's interesting to you, then you click on that, and that begins to establish you know, metadata that can define what's important to you.
I think that's true, Steve, but I think you have a unique experience with this. I would say my experience is there's as much spam in my notifications as there is in my email, and it's going to
There's
get
spam
more
in everything.
with iBeacon. With iBeacon, it's going to get more.
It's not going to get more. It's going to get less. It's going to get less because the people who abuse that channel are going to become much higher cost to everybody, to individuals, and those people who don't practice safe, whatever this is,
Messaging.
thank you. They're going to be ostracized, or at least pushed, you know, further down the queue, and there will be a significant amount of communications that they are attempting that won't get through.
But going back to the original source of the conversation, I think we kind of are in violent agreement, actually. It's just a different, maybe a timing difference in perception, but I think we're overall in agreement. But go back to the original, which was Twitter's IPO and the changes that that's made that John introduced. To me, the biggest news of the week was Twitter opening up image-only tweets and the decision to expand images automatically within the feed, so that visually Twitter starts to look a lot more like Instagram or just.me for that example, for that matter, and a lot less like Twitter. And alongside of that, Google, with the Google Plus update, focused mainly on images, introduced private messages to circles of friends using mainly images.
Oh, great. So now they're going to pollute private messages with circles.
Yes.
That's insane.
Well, but there was a big discussion that gave rise to, which is, you know, roll the clock forward a year, and how different do Twitter, Google Plus, and Facebook look? Don't they actually look the same?
Yeah, but this is not a UI consideration. What do they call it? The analysts call it, John, user experience, right?
Useless experience. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the look of the button, Johnny Ive aside, is not high on the list of things that are important to people.
No, but
what the stream feels like.
It's more
Yeah.
about the nature of the service. And, you know, there's kind of a spectrum from private, shared, public, but the UIs are converging around stream, text, images, videos, usually short videos. So you've got a convergent UI UX with a range of sociological relationships that are managed through that interface. And all of that is kind of converging into one amorphous platform that is pretty similar.
With the exception of, yes, so now you're violently agreeing with me. To the extent that short videos is the only thing that I would quibble with. I don't agree that short videos are a viable opportunity. I think that I think they're what they are, but
they're a feature.
they're much more of a
in
potato chip than a baked potato.
What a music video is a short video, or I mean,
the music video is quite
Yeah,
long video.
when was the last time you watched a music video?
He means 6-second videos like Vine.
Yeah.
Those are irritating.
Well, they changed that now, so you can archive and edit them, right? Or you know, you can do more with Vine than what you could do before. I don't like that short format either.
John just came back on, and it's interesting. John, you launched something this week. I saw with the text message that has a picture, and we're talking about basically the convergence of formats and formats as features, and whether features could become platforms. Snapchat, Vine, blah blah.
John,
Yeah,
Berkeley.
I think that, Keith, I think that we're, you know, the media and just human beings in general, we're always looking for like a linear, you know, single sort of directionality to tech, and I think we're running really fast in multiple directions, and sometimes away from each other. And so I think on one hand, I agree that there's a pressure towards convergence in these types, and I would say, you know, it's the stream and these the tiled masonry Pinterest-like interfaces have become sort of dominant. And then another way, you know, particularly on mobile, is that we're running very fast in other directions, right? And so you're alluding to context, which is a a new app that we invested in a BetaWorks, and was a new version of it came out this week, and which sort of integrates images with text messaging. There's another app that we invested in called Frontback, which is doing a very different experience of images, giving you context at the front and the back. You've obviously got Snapchat. You've obviously got Instagram starting to a huge platform which is now starting to monetize. So we got like a lot of different
Whisper.
movements.
You've got Whisper.
You got Whisper, we got that. And then, look, let me show you something else, because I was sort of dropping in and out, and I've got a crappy connection today. So while it's holding up, let me show you something, because I was thinking of something before. Can I screen share something, Steve, and show you some data?
Hey, why knock yourself out? Let's
Yeah,
it's working
let's see
now,
if
so
this
let's
works.
break it. Good idea.
Yeah, so let's see. So what I have here is, so this is Chartbeat, right? Which is
We're not seeing it. We're seeing the.
So you
coming.
can see, yes.
It's
So
coming.
you,
It's just rendering.
okay. So this is what I'm showing you while it renders. I'll talk. Is what I'm showing you is Gawker's internal dashboard for their traffic, and Nick Denton is nice enough and smart enough that he's totally okay with us showing this publicly. But this is, most publishers consider this to be pretty confidential data, because it actually says there's 17,000 people on this site right now. Are you seeing it?
No.
No.
So why don't you just describe what it is and see if
Yeah,
you can
keep
switch.
talking.
See if you can switch back so that we can at least see you.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that you'll get something that will come through. So let me just talk for a second.
The only time I've seen this behavior is when Keith does it, and usually it comes back when he reboots. So, just saying.
That was only once. It's worked for me recently.
Do you want me to switch back to video and then?
Yeah,
try
I'd like you to
I want
try.
to show you something pretty radical. Okay, so let me.
Can you get it on an iPad and show and hold that up to the camera?
That would work too. Let me stop screen sharing. Okay.
Speaking of iPads held up to the camera, look what I got.
Yeah. Look what I got.
Okay. Am I back or I'm not back now?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Well, you're locked up, but go ahead. At least there's a still picture. Go ahead.
Oh God, technology. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, and I'll see if I can pull it up on the iPad and show you, was that there was a story that Gawker put out last week, which was Russell Brand did a interview with a British news program called Newsnight.
Hang on a sec. Guido, we're going to talk about entertainment figures now, so you can turn off the set. Sorry, go ahead.
By the way, Newsnight's an awesome show.
Yeah, and Russell Brand's not exactly an entertainment figure. He's a comedian.
Oh, come on. He's one of the funniest people alive.
Anyway, so this video, I wish I could show you the data on this, because this video went, it represented on Gawker, it was 3 times the traffic of all of Gawker's site, right? This one page.
If
3
only we
times-
could see it.
3 times the size of what the hell is that noise?
That was me opening my iPad Air.
All right.
Okay.
Keith, I'll just show mine. Okay?
You're unboxing.
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
private.
so I'm going to try and pull this up. Let's come back to it. Show me your iPad Air, Keith. And Steve, I'm going to come back in. My point is that social traffic has fundamentally changed the way people discover stuff on the internet. And this Russell Brand thing, 95% of the traffic came through social. And you could see how Twitter and Facebook are dramatically changing the architecture of how traffic moves around the internet. And yet certain things are very Facebook friendly and other ones are very Twitter friendly. So going back to our thing, what we were talking about before, about sort of, the uniformity of the interfaces, I think you have some uniformity going on, you have some fragmentation, and then each of the platforms are really good for certain kinds of sharing. And
they're all sort of competing around that locus.
Yeah.
Like Twitter is to, I guess it was John's point, moving to an architect. Oh no, it was Keith talking about the mainlining pictures and video. it starts to feel like Facebook, only better because it actually has something on it other than cat pictures.
Other than random people you went to high school with.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna hang up on you, John, and then call you back. See if that fixes it.
Okay.
So, John Toshek.
Yes.
Yes. Do you or do you not think that that the impact on the enterprise of push notification is going to start to become very apparent in the very short time period?
Absolutely. If you think about the enterprise, everything's kind of built around some kind of queuing mechanism, where you're queuing an activity or you're queuing a desktop agent or something that happens around that. And push notification actually takes that same concept and delivers it en masse without having to develop that whole new infrastructure that is almost untrainable in many cases with customer service or for anything. And so, absolutely, what has to happen is the push notification then has to be pushed into the business processes of the enterprise, and there needs to be the enterprise bus that we've talked about before to manage it. And it's not just this is not just one company doing it; it's a lot of companies doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And but totally, it just replaces those those interfaces that would, if you looked at today, would be unusable and don't solve anyone's customer issues.
So, John, it's interesting what you say, and I've been involved in some discussions with Cisco and with Intuit with my Just Me hat on over the last couple of months, looking to ask the question whether we should pivot Just Me to an enterprise messaging play. And what you said is exact. It's about half of what we've been talking about with them is to do with the relationship between messages and alerts and notifications. But there's two other things that they really care about a lot. One of them is really hard. They want that to be linked to an enterprise knowledge graph. Who knows what about what? So if you were to ask the question, who should be in a team on this new project, the knowledge graph would be able to suggest people, and then you could start messaging with those people. So the knowledge graph is huge to them. The second is the ability to think about the different modes of thought that an employee is in. For example, when you're in a meeting and you want to take a picture of the whiteboard and it's just a memory to yourself, that's not the same as the follow-up to the meeting that involves the whole group, which is not the same as the CEO writing something to the whole company.
Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting avenue for exploration. But the Uber question is, how can you enter the enterprise market quickly, and where do you get access to that kind of social enterprise graph?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Salesforce has an enormous resources in this area.
Well, there's
LinkedIn may have some. Who are the players that are going to enter this market?
There's really two very important players. If you were to do this, if you were to bootstrap this outside of the firewall, Twitter and LinkedIn would be your two most important assets. Facebook less so, but somewhat interesting. And then you need to be into the LDAP directory or the Active Directory, whichever they run, and both the forums and messaging databases, including email, to be able to maintain a real-time knowledge graph that sees change in skills.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I agree with you about the forums. I think forums were deprecated by blogs and have never
I mean
recovered.
customer service forums. I mean the internal customer service forums. I don't
Kevin?
mean...
Kevin, you were going to say something?
Well, I think that the challenge is that these public forums, in the broadest sense, are where these conversations are happening. The people do take their enterprise complaints to Twitter, to Facebook, to Stack Overflow, to other places in public and complain about them there, and that's the piece you have to couple back into. And trying to sort of constructor within the firewall graph of who knows what about whom is less likely to succeed than the publicly connected graph of everyone, because everyone is in it. But most of the smartest people don't work for your company, as somebody once said, and that's the challenge with this as well. If you try and build something that's purely internal, you're constrained by the size of your company.
Even though inside a corporate message bus, you find that there are a number of different kinds of engagement. The sort of CEO-driven top-down thing is good at the beginning. It shows a lot of.
It's good for seeding the conversations.
Yeah, exactly. But it also is good for killing the conversation once people start to atrophy into showboating and that kind of stuff. But there's this other kind of engagement that I think is going to show up with plays like Twitter, for example, which have the unique opportunity of being ubiquitous enough across organizations that if they can fix or get to some sort of place with direct messaging, for example, they have an opportunity to be able to establish a private message path, which then would make it easier for people to work. This is one of the things that Chatter's really good for, is in a group architecture where they can actually get some real work done, but across the network. And I think that's where the real opportunity is for all these players, and I think that some of them have more opportunity than others. That's why I think Circles is such a devastating blow to the Google technology, which is in so many ways superior, or at least out ahead of most of the other platforms. But then they're
making up for Circles with photographs. They're becoming a vastly great image store for photographs.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wedge they have. But yeah, you're probably right. Circles are just not as used.
They just
anywhere
poison
near.
the well. People, if they don't trust, where they're being seen and who they're communicating with or being communicated to from, it just becomes an impossible task. John Borthwick, I just want to make sure that I can hear you. Did you find that page you were looking for on your?
Yeah, I did. Well, I got it on the iPad. So let me just hold it up. So hopefully you can see this. Oh, shit. Okay. So can you see that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Just lock that one off.
You've got 17,000 or so people on the Gawker website right now. Let me get it. There you go. So you got 17,000 people on the Gawker website right now. And you can see that massive spike, right? That's a 30-day chart in the middle there. And that was the Russell Brand piece, right? Which was this piece here. And, this thing went up last Friday. I think it was recorded on Thursday night. Wednesday night, I think, in the UK. And it's in of itself, it's a really interesting video. But I think that the data that you see underneath the publishing side of the web just shows just how radical the whole world's just being transformed by social, by mobile, and the Google search is becoming a smaller piece of the puzzle now.
How that manifests itself in terms of business model and revenue, it doesn't seem to have become obvious yet, though, right?
I don't think it's become obvious, although that one of the big stories that I think is clear now is that in 2013, the Facebook guys did an unbelievable job of scaling monetization on mobile, right? And so we've done a whole bunch of things to do with mobile and on Facebook and on Twitter this year. And the game that we pushed out earlier this year, we got about more than 15 million people who've installed it now. And understanding what you could do now with Facebook with mobile it's pretty amazing. And in Facebook's results they pushed out last week, about half of their revenue is now coming from mobile, if I remember right. And then on Twitter side, when the Twitter financials came out, I was surprised that 60-70% of their revenues coming the advertising revenue, not the data stream revenue, is coming from mobile. And so what you're seeing is just these companies are starting to get really good at targeting on mobile. And that is, that's also going to have an impact on Google down the road. And I think that the switch to, the photo side of Google Plus, I think is, I was interested by it, but I scratched my head and thought, is this, another subtle pivot that is not going to quite get there, because I'm not sure if I need Google to do that for me. But
so John, just out of interest, when you do the back of the envelope math about the size of the advertising pie that's being left behind on desktop and laptop eventually, compared to the size of the advertising pie on mobile, even though mobile's going to have way more traffic than the desktop and the web ever had, do you think it's going to have as big an advertising pie, or do you think that pie is much more constrained?
No, I think that we're going to see, we see brands coming in and spending, and I think a couple of years back, we all thought that the constrained form factor of mobile would constrain people's ability to do much on the advertising side. I think most branded advertising and banner advertising on the web still sucks, and trying to port that into mobile is not what we should be doing. That said, I think you could start to see people doing really smart things, doing targeted or more branded experience advertising on mobile. So, I'll give you some examples. On the Twitter side, we were talking about them, right? The acquisition that they did of Mopub, I think, is a big deal, right? And that's going to give them a whole bunch of capabilities to target they haven't before.
And what does that do?
If these companies, Steve, have hundreds of millions of people on mobile devices, and that if they can effectively help target other app providers so that people can do one-click installs off the stream, that's a big business, right? And so that's, Facebook is doing that and Twitter is doing that, and it's starting to turn into a big business. I think on the brand side, a lot of people are doing interesting things. I'll brag about some of the things we're doing. And so, we did within our game Dots, we did a branded version of the game called Gravity Mode, which we launched on 9/8 in homage to Gravity Day, and it was sponsored by GE. And it ran for 1 week. So it was a custom version of the game that ran for 1 week. In 1 week, we got over 150 million views of the GE brand. We're over 30 million gameplays on this specific mode of the game. And then when we took it out, right, when we closed it down because it was an ad after 1 week, we closed down that particular gameplay mode, the gravity mode. A lot of users said, wait a minute, we love that. Would like it back. So we reintroduced it as a paid-for upsell, a paid-for in-app purchase. And people said, great. And so I think you can see that there's sort of new kinds of advertising, new kinds of native experiences which are being built here. The GE guys were happy with this. The GE guys were amazing. They were on Twitter DMing people saying, glad you like Gravity Mode. Can I send you a T-shirt? And they were sending out Dots and GE branded T-shirts to people, and then people taking photos of themselves wearing the T-shirt and putting it up online. It was just, you could see a brand engaging in a direct way that I think 5 years ago pundits were just talking about, and now it's happening.
John Toshak, you were going to say something?
No, I think John covered all of it. It's the mobile opportunity. I mean, if you think about the web banner ads, that was kind of a creation just because there was some space to take up, and it kind of took the billboard approach to awareness. There's so much opportunity in mobile just because it is going to be the main device people use throughout the day to just embed different kinds of advertisements. It's just that advertisers have to be willing to change in order to reach people, and people do want to be reached in the way that they want to be reached.
Yeah.
And this presents an opportunity that gives them something. It's just not. Right. I don't think we've seen anything that even approximates the what can happen, what's possible in the future.
That's not a word, by the way.
But to put some numbers around it, Steve, if you put some numbers around it, advertising on the web and desktop in the last 12 months was well over $30 billion. And the mobile component of that was $3.5 billion. So there's a huge amount to lose as people's time shifts to mobile, and not a lot of time to make it up. So even though I think John's optimism is well founded, I don't think it's trivial.
Well, I think that
I think the amount of time is picking up. I think that it's the other way around. Is that there is a massive amount of time people are spending on these newer devices, on mobile, on tablet, and things like that, where they weren't spending sitting in front of computer screens.
yeah, that's exactly
there
right.
is some substitution, but there's some replacement of other activities as well.
And the companies are getting more data that they didn't have before.
Yeah, and that's and these processors, both this mini, whatever this is, iPhone 5S, and the this new Air, run the A7, and they also run the multimedia chip as well.
But
and,
if you
hang on a second, Keith.
Okay.
And as a result, I'm starting to, first of all, the phone, I'm starting to multitask on this phone like nothing, it's berserk. I'm running GoToMeeting, I'm on a phone call, in a conference call, GoToMeeting, I'm getting push notifications about other things. There's just this incredible amount I've been trying to sort of push the envelope to see at what point this thing becomes unusable, and it hasn't. As a matter of fact, it's just completely subsumed my usage of the iPad mini, which is why I went and bought this thing today, because I need some differentiation between these devices, and this sort of secret wall that the A7 has climbed over is, I think, going to have a huge impact, because as John T points out, there's so much experiential data along with increased user metadata that's coming off the network now because of these devices. It's not about mobile, it's just about computing. The fidelity of computing, the signal has just gotten enormously rich.
Therein lies the real issue, because mobile, back to the advertising thing, mobile CPMs, average CPCs even, are about 15% of the same average on desktop. So traffic has to multiply by 7x just to stay in the same place.
Yeah, but you're not taking into account, and you didn't take this into account when you wrote that series of really great TechCrunch posts about this issue. 6 months ago, when everybody was clueless?
Year and a half ago.
Felt like about 10 minutes ago. But it doesn't take into account what I think the Johns are alluding to, which is the quality of what we used to call advertising mixed with the product that used to be what we perceived as being the advertisement for,
Right.
has now merged into a single service object. And, so maybe there isn't the same revenue in terms of this, as John Toshak called sort of a billboard kind of model, but the experiential data that is now spinning off of this and how that's being used to prioritize real-time streams is enormously valuable because it's connected to transactions, and so it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. So I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that it's the link, it's the relationship between these screens that's what's important, right? Or what's different. I think that we had this sort of, collective delusion that we got into with banner advertising, which took an existing format, a billboard-like format, a more of a broadcast format, and imposed it upon the web. I think that we are now seeing that as the shift happens to mobile, I think that the numbers are still small, Keith. You're right about that. I was just looking it up. I think the mobile's up 117% this year over year. So we're seeing massive growth within mobile advertising. But measuring mobile advertising in of itself is, I think, again, a fallacy that gets you into, you miss the bigger point, which is it's the relationship between these screens, right? Does the big screen on your wall, which we used to call the TV, become the second screen mobile or the iPad becomes sort of a navigational first screen, what's the relationship, particularly to stream-based services like Twitter that we're talking about, and their ability to be able to gather people into clusters to talk about what's going on, and then for them to be able to integrate advertising in that in a way that moves to the grain of the user experience. I think that's the opportunity. And so it's a multi-screen experience. It's not watching the desktop decay and TV decay and mobile come up. It's like integration of all these things.
Yeah. I think my point, John, is only that there's quite a lot of thinking still to be done to be really good at that. I really like
No shit.
your phrase, organizing people into clusters. And if you think of what Google AdSense did to the world, it basically created lowest common denominator keyword targeted groups where the price per 1,000 was at the low end that it possibly could be. So it was great for the buyer, not so great for the publisher. It feels to me as if mobile creates an opportunity to be awesome for the publisher. If you can cluster people into highly defined interest groups, the average value of that group is going to be very high.
Right, and I think that that's part of the genius of Twitter and the simplicity of Twitter, because I think that a lot of people have taken the sort of the top-down view of clustering, saying that force users to categorize each of their circles or their groups, and then you're stuck with these groups and you can't dynamically form them. And yet what Twitter did is that I wish they'd get lists right, because I think that there's a lot more power that could be there.
Twists are bogus. They're completely
but I
bogus.
do think that the retweet and the at mention signals and the hashtags are ways of dynamically clustering people through the network. And so they can be hacked on the margin, but there are ways which the network can dynamically organize people who may be interested in fly fishing and revolution in Egypt, but all of a sudden they're like talking about the fact that BlackBerry sucks, right?
But
and
why do you think they're doing such a bad job of that? I mean, they bought that company that you were part of back a few years ago. I forgot what it was called now, but it was trying to do exactly this. And then they didn't buy Bitly, at least yet, who with your data scientist lady, Hillary, has got the capability of doing a lot of this stuff. So it's not as if they couldn't make moves, but they don't seem to have done as good a job as they should be doing in this whole knowledge clustering area.
So I think that it's very easy to backseat drive these things, right? It's like there's always opportunities. Keith, you build companies. It's hard to do. The actuality of building them is hard. There's always more stuff you could do. I think that they have done, the thing which they've done a remarkably good job of is not screwing up the core product experience. And, you could almost argue that they, by not adding, because there was, people want to put payloads in, people wanted to put so much stuff into the stream that I think it would have, Twitter could have easily become more like Facebook. And I think it still distinguishes itself from Facebook in its dynamic ability to make those clusters and for the speed of the stream. And I think that is, so that's what they've done right. Why did they miss, can we sit here and talk about could haves? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I think that they could do. But, they got a hell of a lot of data within Twitter. I think they've been very focused on the data within Twitter, and one of the things that, that Bitly has, or the data I just showed you from Chartbeat has, is data outside of Twitter. But they're very focused on what they can garner from inside of the stream, and they're starting to do some interesting things there with search and other things, but we'll see.
I want to try and penetrate John's cold for John Toshek's cold. We were at an interesting conference this week. Ray Wang, who's Wang, is it Wang?
Wang.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
We're having an argument, my producer and I, about the pronunciation of a name. Take that, Guido. So, can you sort of give a quick summary of some of the things that we saw there, because they're really orbiting this conversation, sort of
Sure.
on a parallel track.
Yeah, so the conference is called the Constellation Connected Enterprise, and R Wang Zero, his Twitter handle, puts it on with his company, and they're basically bringing enterprise into much more of a consumer world. They're connecting it to what they call the sexy enterprise, and so they had a lot of different kind of people there. Right? They had customers, they had vendors, analysts, and it was a very super connected event in that way. I'd say the themes of all of them were really focused around the changing nature of engagement, the getting past obstacles on just how social, how social companies actually are versus how much they can consume, and they had the Wall Street Journal was there, the Atlantic was there, they had a lot, the Harvard Business Review. They were all talking about the getting over these barriers to adoption. So I'd say you see this the vendors are very pushing for this change, and they're seeing now for the first time in a long time a tremendous uptake in the enterprise on how to transform their businesses and get closer to their customers. That's a difference from before, where it was much more about businesses just pushing stuff to customers. And I think Ray is onto something here.
Yeah, and in the context of some of the older conferences that we used to know and love, starting with the O'Reilly string of peer-to-peer, turning into
E-Tech.
e-tech, and then morphing or exploding into Web 2.0 Summit, and then going boom and disappearing. But along the way, there was this fascinating kind of exploration of the stuff that led to the phase of Twitter, Facebook, all came post Web 2.0, from a timing perspective. And I see what Ray's doing here. I mean, he had an app for the conference that I didn't even look at I don't even know if there was a printed.
Yeah, they Double Dutch was the company that built the app, and Ray said that he doesn't need a website. He's not even sure what's going on. I'm sure he does know what's going on a website, but everything is in the app. And the agenda, it's got its own kind of unique social engagement cluster around it. You get a lot of data, you get a lot of information, and it helps him set up for the next conference and his research agenda for the next year too.
And the other major news of the week, the FAA basically means now that print is completely dead. Because the only reason that I even took a magazine or a newspaper on a plane was for that 20 minutes. When after you leave the gate and before you get to 10,000 feet or whatever it is, that's over within the next tomorrow, according to Delta, and over the next several months, we're going to see that happening. That is extraordinary in terms of its impact on the media. Any thoughts, John Borthwick?
I don't fly enough, so I agree it does change. I'm glad I don't fly that much, but I think all this stuff's inevitable, and so it's I'm glad that's happening. Did you see? Somebody told me earlier. Somebody in the office, Andrew McLaughlin, mentioned that. Speaking of something else that happened this week, is that the cable companies are talking to Aereo.
No, I didn't see that. But
I thought that was fascinating.
Parenthetically, there's an app for Comcast that makes it incredibly easy to watch all the shows. It's all aggregated in this one player app, and I believe they're going to change the name of it and release it more widely next week. It's basically TV everywhere or to go, whatever that branding is for a sort of consortium of you've already paid for this once. You can download these things now. You can stream them. The downloading seemed to be blocked by the hotel we were in, but the streaming worked just fine. And I mean, this literally that was another reason to get this thing. This thing is light enough and big enough of a screen to really obviate. I mean, look at the difference. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, but what?
I can't see. Can
Yeah.
you?
Well, it's a MacBook Air, and then I'm holding the. It's a MacBook Air, and I'm holding the iPad over it. Pretend this is a MacBook Air. I'm holding this in front of it. It's about 7/8 the size of the screen. I'm not talking about the iPad Mini now. I'm
Oh, you
talking
mean the
about the
big
difference
screen.
between the MacBook Air and the iPad Air. This is going to start to replace again a significant part of this because it's light. I can hold it with one hand. I don't get tired doing it. It's easy to type even without a keyboard, relatively speaking. And the picture is incredible. It's even got stereo speakers.
But
They're moving toward wiping out the MacBook Air is what they're doing. This is the
going
next
back
step.
going back to your point about the streaming Comcast thing, I don't know if any of you are watching Homeland, but the only way to watch Homeland is on Showtime.
That's right, but you can download it with this app that I'm talking about. This Comcast app gives
Yeah,
you a
but to
download.
download it with the app, you have to subscribe to Comcast's very top tier, almost $200 a month service, because that's what Showtime comes
Yeah,
with.
well, it sucks to be me. I'm paying for all this now, but the point is that the consumption of all the things that I do are now trivial and easy to the point
Yeah.
of Ray's
Consumption's great.
app, for example. It's no longer science fiction. It's no longer, gee, that's cool. It's more like, gee, that's a whole lot easier, and I don't have to carry stuff around. And basically, I'm wherever I am. I download something, and I'm in the world of that thing. And if you talk about engagement, you hang stuff off of that platform, and it's going to have 10 times the revenue of the web, frankly.
I agree with that. I just don't think it's not going to be all advertising revenue, though. I agree with that. But
Yeah.
I also think that the next stage in that has to be unbundling, which is why the Aero thing is so interesting, because I think the revenues for the larger entities like Showtime would go way up in an unbundled world.
But I think that's a fantasy. I think that's like,
I know you
don't
do,
get me
but
started on the
yes.
open standards discussion, Kevin.
I haven't started that one today yet, though I can. If you
I
want.
know. I just thought I'd teach
Steve,
you a
do you
little.
think it's a fantasy that it unbundles, or you think that it's fantasy that the revenue is greater in that world?
No, I think it's a fantasy that it unbundles. I don't think unbundling will ever happen because it is in the economic interests of large, extremely aggressive multinational corporations to keep the windowing system. If, however, it's shifted from basically hard to do anywhere but on your TV to the same model where it's easy to do it wherever you are, then those incumbents that make that shift, and John Toshak was telling me about DirecTV, they're doing the same thing, right?
I got yes, that's true.
I'm
DirecTV's
TiVo.
got this Genie, the Genie box, which is actually, if I pull it out up, you won't be able to see it, but it's over here. It's only this big, and it shows you everything that's going on in your whole house, and then you have an app that you can use on. As long as you're connected to the wireless to get the shows that you want, you can take those shows in different locations. It's pretty nice. It's a little kludgy because you have to be on your network when you get it, but it's still okay.
To me, John, just Borthwick, to answer your question, the economic power and clout that Comcast can derive from having made all of these negotiations and deals with their direct competitors at the network level. I mean, they own NBC, yet they've got, in this app, I can download, or for the most part, I can definitely stream virtually any show on CBS, NBC, ABC. I don't know about Fox. I think some Fox shows. I mean, this becomes the deal, and the economic clout that they enjoy as a result of this. The only fly in the ointment, I would suggest, is Netflix. Netflix is the one thing that will continue to drive them toward essentially, forcing their users into this new world. But for the user who's already paying the freight, I think that's far more successful. They can gladly suffer 6% so-called cord cutters, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that there's enough energy. Whoever owns the Super Bowl is going to own the lion's share of this revenue.
But Apple or Google could own the Super Bowl in an instant.
Are you sure?
Well, it wouldn't cost them very much compared to how much money they've got, and it would be a lot cheaper for them than it is for NBC or Fox.
Well, then how come it hasn't
You mean
happened?
Google buys the Super Bowl and Chromecast it?
They could do whatever they wanted with it. I mean, it's the whole Rupert Murdoch strategy: buy the big sport events, and then you get the customers.
Yeah, but he also bought a network to put it on.
Well, the NFL wouldn't do that. They want to own that. They're trying to own their own games going in the future. But you're right. If they did own it, they could do whatever they want. It just wouldn't happen.
And the opportunity to advertise and to launch and promote their shows is why they do this in the first place. I mean, you can't own a major sports thing without owning a network on which to play off the eyeballs that result from those kinds of things.
Well, eventually they'll have to, because ultimately it's just distribution. You've got cable, you've got satellite, and you've got internet. Google started life as a content owner and is increasingly moving towards being a distribution mechanism with fiber and Wi-Fi ambitions. Apple started as a software and hardware company that's now moving into content. Ultimately, there's only so many people and there's so many channels to get to those people, and they'll compete with each other, and whoever has the deepest pockets will buy the content that most people want.
Yeah, but Apple, bought ABC. I mean, they're the largest single shareholder of ABC because Lorene Jobs, because Steve Jobs sold Pixar to them and basically took over Disney. So it still comes down to these large network owners. All right, let's just go around the table and let's vote on it, because you seem to be saying that you think that the tech companies are going to get into this game, and I'll reserve my thought to the end. John Borthwick, what do you think? You think that's going to happen?
I think that the tech companies are already in this game, and I think that the bundles are being broken up and they're being reconstituted into new bundles. I think that at the core, of the bundle conversation, we're talking about a good piece of it is a business model conversation. So it sort of relates to the advertising one from before, and I think that subscription, along with advertising, is the subscription-based revenue needs to be, it needs to be an integral part of how we build out this next layer of the web. Because I think if it's all advertising related, we'll repeat what we've done in the last 10 years. So yeah, that's what I think.
John Tajek.
I think the tech companies will totally get into this. They already are. Netflix is a tech company and a media company. Those lines are blurring. And, what's traditional today is not going to be traditional later. So traditional TV and broadcasting, anybody can do a reality show. It's been proven. That stuff's going to go, first. It's just going to be amazing what this technology transforms. At the same time, the media companies are trying to get, technology sophisticated that way themselves. Over time, they're all going to be blurred.
Kevin Marks.
I think the technology is getting there. We've seen a bunch of developments in that this week with the newer devices coming out. We've seen convergence on the standards side this week, where Cisco is giving away an H.264 decoder, which means that you can use that on a broader range of platforms than you could before, which is one of the problems we had with Open Standards Video. So that's helping. And I think the point about how fast the tablets and things are getting now is actually quite significant. But the other sort of stupid shit we had this week was the Rockstar patents thing, where Microsoft and Apple have created a patent troll to go after Google, basically. And so I read the patent, and one of the patents they had is a a usual bullshit patent about scrolling content on a screen. But the fascinating thing was it saying computers have large screens like 640 by 480, and we need something different for these new small devices. It's like 640 by 480. I remember that. That would that's barely a fucking icon now.
Kevin, what's your opinion on patents in general?
Patents in general
don't
need to be
sugarcoat
destroyed.
it. Tell us.
Okay, you just made me swear more now. Patents need to go away, and I'm hoping that the cultural shift is changing enough that this lawsuit will trigger revocation of a bunch of those and the collapse of the value of the patent troll business. That's if Google's smart about their end game, that's what they'll be trying to do.
Oh, see, now that's a whole other thing that we need to go around the table, because I completely that's a total fantasy.
No, but the other piece, the other bits going on here, the other convergence you're talking about with the streams, I think is interesting. I think the card metaphor is starting to pick up here, and that's the thing that unifies the single flow stream thing that you get on Twitter and Facebook, and the masonry type layouts that you see on Pinterest and so on. And Google Plus is sort of somewhere in between. You end up with 2 columns rather than 4. But there is a big difference between a sort of a very wide screen and a very tall screen, and a lot of these things haven't thought that through well. And it's one of the things that Twitter has got spectacularly wrong, in that their inline images are all 16 by 9 wide, which means they crop the middle out of pictures. So you get these very weird looking things like, what the hell is that?
Well, I mean,
trying to show me?
Facebook does the same thing. I mean,
you
click on a
mind-bogglingly
Facebook
stupid.
picture, and all of a sudden you're in a widescreen Western from the CinemaScope era.
Well, if you've taken a widescreen picture, that's fine. But I mean, in the stream, Twitter shows you a widescreen crop.
That's what I'm saying.
Of
is
a
that you
portrait
see-
picture.
You see
So-
like shots from here, basically.
Yeah,
It's like you see
it's like my eyes are up here, Twitter.
my shirt, and
All the smart designers went with Square, by the way. On mobile, almost everyone's doing Square these days.
Well, no, but Pinterest. The reason the Pinterest layouts look less uniform is because they actually cope with different aspect ratios.
Well, John Borthwick, you mentioned Pinterest. I still haven't logged on to Pinterest. Why do I care?
Pinterest is, the numbers are extraordinary, Steve. It's, there's definitely a larger percentage of
That's
women.
like the numbers are extraordinary for Google Plus users. I just don't.
No,
the only
no,
one I know is John Toshak.
No, there's a lot of people who go to Pinterest, and there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time surfing there, and who then click through to buy stuff. And so the link between that and between buying stuff is, there's a very tight commerce relationship with Pinterest. They just raised money, I think, at $3.5 billion. And Google, I hear you on Google Plus. I went to my Google Plus account this past week when the photo announcement was made. I saw that there were 20,000 people who follow me on there. I have no idea who they are. And and I don't use it much at all. I don't know if you saw Jon Stewart's quip on Google Plus. It was good, but
what did he say?
I didn't see it.
Can you summarize?
He had. I can't do it anywhere near what he did. He had he was running a story about the barge floating in San Francisco in the Bay, and that it's maybe some confidential secret project that Google's up to, like Google Plus.
Yeah, it is confidential and it is secret. It's called
Binders full of patents.
Yeah, that nobody knows what it is, like Google Plus or something like that. So binders full of patents.
It's being run by the Romney campaign. I didn't realize.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but I think the Pinterest is not a tech. It's one of these companies that broke out sort of like Kickstarter and went mainstream without going through the tech, the tech echo chamber, which I think is kind of cool because Twitter certainly went and still lives within very much the tech echo chamber, and Facebook sort of grew up through that. But there were some companies who bypassed it, and I think Snapchat has to some degree. Gone straight to a teen audience, and a huge number of people use those services, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I understand. I just don't understand how it sort of. I keep hearing it sort of being compared or injected into conversations, much the way LinkedIn started to become part of conversations.
Which Pinterest or Snapchat?
Both, but I mean, Snapchat is just a virus. I mean, I've got two. I've got a 20-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they're both equally conversant on Snapchat. So it shows you that this is not going to go away.
Well, I think it's part of the Facebook is now perceived as public performance. It's no longer seen as a place you talk to your friends. It's a place where you perform to your relatives, and so Snapchat has taken up a piece of that niche. Facebook Chat, Facebook Messenger has a piece of that, and so Twitter sort of getting their finger out and like realizing that DMs are useful rather than hiding them away like 6 layers deep in their interface could be a good thing. I've always found. I mean, it's partly, I suppose it's partly because I'm an old school Twitter user. When I remember when it was like SMS made useful, that DMs were a big part of that, and that they sort of lost that. I think they lost the sense of that, and the 2 or 3 redesigns that they were deliberately trying to hide DMs from you and make them really hard to see, and them coming back as notifications and plugging into these systems would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, no, I think they're. I think Twitter's doing amazingly well. To John Toshek's point about, I think you inserted something about Netflix. I think Netflix is the only channel right now that you cannot get in a mobile environment. I mean, you can get it streaming, but you can't download it. You can't buy it. Their programs they've got locked up in a streaming model. So it's like the new window is Netflix, because you can't get that through the Comcast app. So I think that we are going to see some convergence between that model and because of the pressure that is being put on it. It's almost in reverse from the way that Comcast tried to stay away from being compared directly to Netflix.
By the way,
I just tried Twitter messaging in OS 10 Mavericks and it doesn't work at all. It's completely shit. So the messages show up in the top right corner, but if you click on them, it takes you to the web and then doesn't show you them, so you can't reply. That's quite remarkably crap.
Good point. John, you were saying something?
Sorry.
No, thank you for completing somebody's sentence.
I was just going to say that the new TiVo, it's called the Romeo Plus, integrates Netflix and all the Amazon and all the live channels into a single search interface. And if you type in the name of a show, it's completely neutral to where that show is, and you can click on any of them. And if it's Netflix, it will start streaming. If it's live on TV, it will go to live on TV. It's kind of interesting how they've done that. And there is now mobile apps that completely complement it, but you do have to have a Comcast account for it all to work.
Right. Which goes back to what I was saying before. Also, CBS announced a streaming news channel. Since they don't own a cable network, they're just bypassing it completely. Yeah. So
that's what this was meant to be behind me. The gap in the market for streaming news.
Ahead again.
Yeah, but I didn't do it.
Well, is there a gap in the market for streaming news? I thought that's what Twitter was.
No, I mean...
actual video.
Oh.
I mean, they're taking CBS News content. I mean, Dan Farber, we should have him on and interrogate him about this, since he works for them.
Streaming news video is shit. You never get anything coherent out of it.
No, it's crap, but put your kind of thinking cap on about what it could be. And you put Twitter, Skype, Facebook, and video into a truly interactive player where the newsroom is informed by the real world and interacts with the real world. You've got a totally different animal to CNN.
No, but the thing is that
CNN.
It is
CNN.
what Twitter is
It's
becoming.
CNN for streaming is what it is, and that's going to be a big play.
No, I disagree, because the problem with CNN is it's like we're showing the same thing to everyone at once and we're repeating ourselves every 15 minutes.
When something happens,
when something happens, it's completely fucking useless. They sit there and show you. They'll eventually find the
said
clip
that news is useful?
social media.
Who said news is
they'll
useful?
show you someone standing in front of it talking bullshit about it for 15 minutes.
Kevin, the fact
I couldn't agree with you more, but that is also mesmerizing. And then they put commercials around it, and they make lots of money. When something goes wrong, people sit in front of it, I mean, now it's two screens. You sit in front of CNN, and then you laugh at them on Twitter. You say, "Geez, so they're 10 minutes behind here." Yeah, there was a shooting at LAX today, and there's a huge business model there. The question is whether or not they're going to move it to the tablet. And the answer from CBS and Les Moonves, who is a very sharp customer, because he led the takedown of these free streaming rights or pass along for of network content, and doubled his revenue in the last 3 months as a result of forcing them to the table.
To that point,
this guy's a smart guy, and he's now moving to the tablet.
Yeah, to that point, CNN gets about 1.6 billion a year in revenue. 600 million of that is advertising, and that advertising is driven by an average audience size of only 250,000.
Wow. Yeah, but they got money. It's like the iPhone versus the Android. 85% or 81% of the engagement. Come on. This is on.
No, I'm with you on
that.
I
really rapidly. Listen, I can see everybody's antsy to get out of here, including us. We have a meeting. So just quickly around the table, starting with John Borthwick.
I'm antsy to get out of here. Good week. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks and we'll talk either voice or email about next week. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Kevin Marks.
The reason I'm getting really excited about the indie web stuff is precisely because all these big streams are becoming commoditized and buses. That's going to be interesting.
You mean like buses, the number 10 bus?
Yeah. You wait for a social media and 3 come along at once. No, because
don't light a cigarette, or they'll all come at once.
Exactly. No, the point is that because they are just trying to decide who gets to see what, there's space to host your own stuff again, but feed it into these systems. That's the thing that I'm finding really interesting.
Okay, Keith Tier.
I'm going to let John go, so I'm not going to say anything. But it's great to be here today.
As always. John Toshak.
Well, Google's Nexus 5 shipped to absolutely no sound. Other than that, great show.
They did a great job of PR behind that, right? They kind of buried the lead. They did a huge amount of work around the Google Plus announcements and then just slipped out a blog post that Nexus 5 was available.
Yeah, here it is, and it's on the barges available on the San Francisco Bay.
Well, I've ordered one. It looks nice.
Well, I can't believe I woke up this morning.
Doesn't work with Verizon.
Exactly.
5 minutes after... 5 minutes after I woke up this morning, I suddenly had this intense need to drive to the nearest Apple store, which I did. I had no plans to get this device, and I can't believe that I did it. But I'm totally now. I'm questioning whether I'm going to get the Mini or not.
I did the same. I actually bought it using a credit card online, then realized that my wife is going to hit me over the head tonight when she sees the credit bill.
I pre-cleared it. With Tina, I just basically said, "What color do you want?" And then she said, "No, I don't want one. Oh God, no, I don't want one." Meanwhile, I'm in the car driving.
Driving home with it.
Exactly. Okay, we have an exciting announcement that we're not making, but go to Philip Nelson's Twitter account and check it out. He's foreshadowing it as well. There's good news coming to the Gillmor gang.
Philip Nelson is the man.
That's right. And I want to thank, speaking of Rackspace, I want to thank Rob Legess and Rackspace in general, and the missing in Europe Robert Scoble for their help and attention, without which the show would not exist. I want to thank NewTek, and I'll have more to say about that next time. I want to thank, well, not next time. We're doing a gang at Dreamscope Force. At Dreamforce. We're doing a gang at Dreamforce.
Who pays your salary, Mr.
Yeah, no. Luckily, it's not tied to that or anything, evidently.
Superman's going to come in and whack me.
Did you see that picture of Mark Benioff as Superman? It's fantastic.
I did, yeah.
Did you see that, John?
I did. I liked it.
I liked it.
It was funny. He had like 1,400 likes in the two pictures at the
I think
time I
it's-
did it.
Put that
I
on
think
the
it's
Forbes
great
cover.
that he retains his humbleness in the face of his greatness.
I was doing it for the kids. You know, it's fantastic.
It's all about
I
the
know, I'm
kids.
kidding.
I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. I want to thank John Toshek.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. I want to thank John Borthwick.
Thanks, Steve.
I want to thank Kevin Marks. I'm looking right at you.
Thanks, Steve.
And I want to thank Keith Tier, as always.
Thank you.
We'll be on the air next week, and then the following week, as I said, I believe that's Dreamforce. So that Tuesday, following Mark Benioff's keynote, we will do a show from the show floor. Thanks to everybody who showed up. The chat room, as always. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.